So there seems to be a little bit of drama with the Green Party leadership race. We're going to go through some attacks that have been thrown from Ellie and Adrian Ramsey towards Zack Polanski. I then spoke to Zack about it, so you can listen to it afterward. First is from a hustings held last night where Adrian Ramsey compared Zack Polanski to Liz Truss. Let's take a look.
We need to build on that, friends, and we've got a huge opportunity to do so because our party is at a crossroads as well. We can continue to have a broad appeal to speak to a wide range of the electorate that you have to win any seat under first past the post, let alone to win far more seats. And as someone who's been a Green Party member for all my adult life, for 27 years, I have to be honest with you that I am concerned about the future direction of what the party would look like if Zack became leader. I'm concerned that it would focus on a communication strategy that is explicitly aimed at just on the progressive activists, the 10% of the population that won't win you any seats. Now, any party can choose to elect a leader that they think will appeal to its base. And, that you can look at some really horrific examples of that, like Liz Truss, for example. But that's not the question in front of us. The question in front of us is who's got the track record of winning amongst a wide cross-section of the public.
The next one is from Ellie. She went on Channel 4 and peddled talking points from the Labour Party in order to attack Zack.
I want to read you a quote from a Labour minister that was printed in The Guardian. It says, "I think we are extraordinarily fortunate that the Green Party are, excuse my French, shit. If they had any kind of charismatic or populist leadership, we'd be 8 to 10 points further down the polls." They're saying they're not feeling pressure from you under your current leadership, and that's your co-candidate.
That's not what I see when I'm directly challenging David Lammy, for example, in the House of Commons about the government's complicity in the genocide that's happening in Gaza. I've also heard it said that some people within Labour would love it if Zack Polanski won the leadership of the Green Party because then they feel that would consign the Green Party to electoral oblivion and therefore not be a challenge. So there are different...
Do you agree with that?
There are different approaches. No, I think... whoever wins this election, I am going to remain an absolutely passionate, committed Green campaigner for Green values.
She didn't answer the follow-up question, but she was implying that the Greens would face electoral oblivion if Zack won. I mean, Labour have an incentive to lie. They don't want Zack winning, so I'm not surprised if they're saying that. But what is kind of bad is Ellie Chowns repeating a political line from the Labour Party to attack Zack. Now, I spoke to Zack, he's been very busy today, but he managed to send me a voice note. I asked him to explain further the Liz Truss comments from Adrian at the hustings, his response to Ellie's comments, and then asked why he thinks they are making these attacks now. Let's take a listen.
Hey, turn left. So sorry I can't be with you. I'm speaking on stage tonight in a field at a Green gathering. I think the main thing to say, though, is I'm really, really delighted about the amount of people who have joined the Green Party and people who have been in the Green Party for a long time who are feeling hopeful and energised. And actually, if I had to sum up my campaign to be leader of the Green Party, whatever the result, it just feels really, really hopeful and really energising. In terms of the attacks from Ellie and Adrian, there's no other way of describing it other than it feels a little bit desperate. And I don't think we need to do that. I think whoever wins, we're all going to get on and work together on September 2nd. So, that's just campaigning, and that's just what it is. In terms of comparing me to Liz Truss, so what happened was at the closing statement of the hustings last night, Adrian said that he had to tell members he was genuinely worried about the future of my party under my leadership because we've seen what happens when people speak to their base, and we've seen it happen with Liz Truss. First of all, it's just an absurd parallel. Liz Truss was not speaking to the Conservatives base. That's partly why everyone freaked out so much. She was speaking to a much more kind of narrow wing of right-wing neoliberals, which of course inhabit the Conservative Party, but famously haven't been the entire Conservative Party, which is why reform was invented. Not that I'm defending the Tories. I'd say if there was any comparison, I guess it would be Jeremy Corbyn. And although he didn't win the election, he did get 3 million more votes than Keir Starmer ever got when he got a landslide. Yes, it wasn't successful electorally, but then the entire Labour Party was undermining Jeremy Corbyn. It's also ridiculous when my whole narrative has been about expanding the base, about bringing in more people into the party, people who want to see us nationalise water companies, people who want to see us out on the picket lines, trade unions, all the people that should be voting for the Green Party because that's where our politics are, but because we haven't been bold enough yet, don't know that we've been speaking to them. And as for Ellie quoting Labour, a Labour source saying that me winning would mean electoral oblivion, I just encourage her to pause and go, why might Labour be saying that Zack Polanski leading the Green Party, is weird talking about myself in third person, but me leading the Green Party might lead to electoral oblivion. Labour are saying that because they know that a bolder Green Party, a party surging to the left of Keir Starmer, at the same time that a party that doesn't even exist yet has 500,000 sign-ups, demonstrates the strength of feeling there is right now to Labour's genocide, to their cutting to child benefit cap, to cutting disability caps, to disability cuts. Labour know that the Green Party are out to get them. They know that if I become leader, we have a party and a movement that are going to attract more and more people who are on the side of environmental, social, racial and economic justice. So I'd encourage people not to get attacky about that or critical about that, but just to reflect, why might that be a very popular message?
I also reached out to Ellie and Adrian's campaign team for comment. They said, Adrian mentioned Liz Truss as an example of a party leader whose messaging appealed to her party's base, the Conservative Party members who elected her as leader, but was much less appealing to voters outside the party. He was clearly not suggesting that Zack resembled Liz Truss in other ways. Ellie's remark was a response to the interviewer's mention of a reported comment on the Green Party's leadership by an unnamed Labour minister. She pointed out that she had heard different views from others within the Labour Party. Neither view is necessarily correct, and the Green Party leadership is not a matter on which the views of Labour Party people should be seen as any sort of reliable guide. The thing is, though, the premise here is that Adrian Ramsey is saying that Zack Polanski is just appealing to the Green Party's base and not the wider electorate. I mean, first of all, this sounds exactly like the Labour Party and Labour MPs talking about Jeremy Corbyn. Like, it's the exact same arguments verbatim. So I find it very strange that they're using the same arguments. But the big difference here is, I mean, first of all, I don't even obviously agree with the original attacks on Jeremy Corbyn, because actually he was far more appealing and is far more appealing than other leaders. I mean, he still got 40% of the vote in 2017. He got more votes than Keir Starmer did in both his general elections, including 2019. And of course, they had 600,000 members. It's strange because the Green Party aren't as big as the Labour Party. So you would think that their base is just the entire party. It's not like there's a difference of policy. Now, in terms of Jeremy Corbyn moved the party to the left. A lot of his policies were different to the sort of moderate Labour people, the Blairites. So, of course, they attacked him on policy and said, you're speaking to the left-wing base of the Labour Party, but you're too left-wing for the majority of the country. But Adrian Ramsey and Ellie Chowns, their policy platform is the same as Zack's. I mean, Zack said that we're not even really debating policy, we're debating communication. So the entire point is to try and communicate Green Party policy to the masses. And despite the fact that they've quadrupled their seats, it's still not big enough, especially with Reform polling number one. So that's entirely sort of Zack's pitch. But I completely reject that Zack using stronger narratives such as the 99% versus the 1%, something that Ellie Chowns has criticised as not being nuanced enough. In fact, they both have. Speaks to the base and not the wider country. I think it's just completely and utterly incorrect. Look, it's briefcase politics versus populism. That's what it comes down to. And the entire Green Party leadership campaign has been exactly that. Ellie Chowns, Adrian Ramsey have represented a more careful approach, not to sort of speak in absolutes, as they might say. And they want to be a bit more nuanced. And Zack Polanski has said, look, we need to be bolder, we need to be clearer, and we need to set the narrative. And I think that kind of sort of populist campaign is far more appealing to the majority of people. Once again, I bring up Jeremy Corbyn, right? The Labour Party under Ed Miliband's lost the election. They weren't looking good, and they weren't looking like they were going to win a general election. And then Jeremy Corbyn came out with for the many, not the few. It was very clear. It was kind of like the 99% versus the 1%. We need to take on the oligarchs, the billionaires, we need to tax the rich. By the way, policy-wise, majority of people support. And at least for 2017, it was very successful. So I find it hard to believe that actually, the Green Party need to be more sensible and briefcase. It doesn't work. We are in an era of populism. The right-wing populists, I mean, I don't even want to categorize them as right-wing populists because their policy platform largely isn't really popular. But let's just call it populist for the sake of the argument. The right-wing have captured that populist sentiment. Reform have done that, right? There is kind of an absence of that on the left. You had a bit of it with Jeremy Corbyn under the Labour Party, and now you're seeing a resurgence of that of Zack Polanski. I mean, his online game is far superior to Ellie and Adrian's. You look at Ellie and Adrian's social media strategy, look at their Instagram posts, they're getting 3 or 4 likes. Whereas Zack Polanski's releasing videos on Twitter, getting millions of hits. Now, of course, it's not just about online game, of course not, but you've got to appeal to someone. So I completely reject this kind of politics, which is we need to be a bit more careful. And I find these attacks strange. I find these attacks desperate because I think they feel as if Zack is probably going to win. He is the favourite. There's far more excitement when it comes to his campaign. In fact, I mean, the Navarra media had leaked information on Green Party membership. It surged by 8% when Zack announced that he was running for leader. So the membership swelled, more people want to vote for him. And once again, all right, I think it contradicts Adrian's point that, well, Zack is sort of speaking to a small clique, we need to appeal to the wider electorate. But when you increase your membership, that is appealing to more of the electorate, right? There are people who probably wouldn't vote for the Green Party, who will vote for the Green Party under Zack Polanski, even if they're just left-wing voters. Those that were sympathising with Jeremy Corbyn, who, and I can say right now, obviously with the backdrop of the Zara Sultana, Jeremy Corbyn party, there'll be so many people who wouldn't even looked at the Green Party under the current leadership and under Ellie Chance and Adrian Ramsey, who are going to give the Green Party a second look under Zack Polanski. That's why there's so many people saying, I think it's really good that this new party and Zack Polanski are talking about working with each other in some capacity. Because I tell you what, if Zack doesn't win this leadership contest, the membership's going to go down. But I think at the end of the day, it's briefcase politics versus populism. Ellie Chance and Adrian Ramsey, they represent briefcase politics, whereas Zack Polanski, he represents populism. And in today's world, that is exactly what you need.